Illimitable Experience podcast.
Now we are on the 6th chapter.
Yeah. So the 6th chapter basically
It's like I guess the 6th chapter tells that how the animals are satisfied and happy with their own work and the way they are going right now.
yeah. So the 6th chapter is basically how now they've started to work on the windmill, and now they are but what happens is that because they're working so much on the windmill is that they're unable to get food for themselves and unable to arrange foods for themselves. So what happens here is that I think Napoleon says that okay, now I am going to engage with a human, which in this book is Mr. Wimple, who is an attorney. And he says that okay, we are going to appoint him as our attorney, and then we will we'll trade with the outside world, because now we are unable to get food for ourselves. I mean, he kept the illusion that okay, maybe we have enough food, but to be just to have enough, we have to now trade with the outside world. But it is not for commercial purposes, it is basically for the betterment of the whole farm and everything. So now they're starting to go similar, like they're starting to do similar things that Mr. Jones used to do. And then later on in the chapter also, there has been an instance where some pigs or some animals see the pigs sleeping in the house of Mr. Jones and sleeping in the bed. And so Muriel, I'm forgetting who Muriel is, which animal in this book, but Muriel points out that I remember that there is a 4th commandment that we had, which said that the sleeping,
no sleeping on the bed.
Yeah, no sleeping on the bed. But later on, she was asked whether do you have a written record of it, and they don't have a written record of it. And they say that okay, when they go, and because there was so much the people were not educated, the animals were not educated, so later on when they go to the board, they have a board and they go to see what the 4th commandment said. So it was then when they reached there, it was changed to no animal shall sleep in a bed with sheets. So this is where they have started to kind of now change their own principles and change everything that they believed in. And later on in the book, this trend continues of changing things which feels convenient to them, which serves the leader's own motives, and then neglects the main principle and the main idea of why their revolution started. And
Yes, that's right. Again, so we'll have a look at it. So Aarushi, if you notice here, this is the most I don't know if it is ironic or if I guess this is ironic statement that Napoleon, while working towards the windmill, had made this rule that we'll be meeting every day in the afternoon, and this is how he gave away the message that this work, okay, was strictly voluntary, but any animal who absented himself from it would have his rations reduced by half. This is so ironic that at one in the initial part of the sentence, he is literally stating that it is voluntary. At the same time, towards the end, he's stating that if you don't do this, although it is voluntary, your rations will be reduced to half. The biggest irony that you can see, right? So he's again trying to create fear by, or he's trying to impose his own agenda on the people. I mean, on animals, that although this is voluntary, you will see the consequences to your own action. So abhi baad mein log to aayenge hi na. They don't have any options because they don't want to reduce their rations by half.
No. This is basically like forcing the people, all the while creating an imagery of it being voluntary.
Right. Again, just we said that when he started trading with the lawyer. So yeah, this is, I would say, I mean, Mr. Jones, the way I see it now in the farmer Mr. Jones was kind of thrown off abruptly because he didn't feed the animals for 1 or 2 days or probably a shorter period of time. And when you see Napoleon over here, he's doing the same things that Mr. Jones used to do, but it's just Napoleon doing it now. So even the animals who are being ruled don't realize that uh, this is the same things that are happening. It's just a different leader.
Yeah. Also, the intention is now different because there's a different leader, and the leader is one that amongst themselves, and now the intention of whatever they're doing is different. And it is not the same as Mr. Jones. It is not commercial that we are, trading with the outside world. It is for the betterment of the farm or whatever.
Farm
Later on,
only.
is the intention is different, is what they're trying to establish. But to be very honest, it's the same thing that Mr. Jones did and whatever Napoleon does in the chapter.
Right. So again, Mr. Wimper, yeah, again, the human interaction, the very principle that they established are being violated now. But first is by talking to a human, that is Mr. Wimper. And can you go next? Another statement where he says one symptom of this was that they had begun to call Animal Farm by its proper name and ceased to pretend that it was called the Manure Farm. Again, this is an alarming situation because they had changed from Manure Farm to Animal Farm with their own green flag with hooves and horns. But again, where we see that they are.
This statement is, sorry to cut you off, but I think this statement is with relation to the people who are, outside and of the outside world. And now, of course, they were kind of like mocking that this is not going to last a fortnight. But now they are kind of, after seeing that they have successfully, made the wind, that they are creating a windmill, they're making a windmill. Now they are realizing that, okay, they still have substantial power. And now they are kind of addressing it as the Animal Farm and not as the Manor Farm. I think
Yes, I guess I was wrong. Yes, right. You rightly pointed it out. Yep.
This is
next. Oh, now this is again the alarming part. It was about this time that the pigs suddenly moved into the farmhouse and took up their residence there, which kind of shows that they didn't intend to familiarize themselves with the normal animals. And this is again a sign of superiority that we'll be staying in a different place which has a huge space, and we won't be interacting with the regular workers or with the worker animals.
So it basically, now in this chapter, it basically says that, okay, when the winter season arrived, they were very short on supplies, the foods, essentials, everything. And so what happened is that they said that they'll work harder. Boxer, who is a horse in the story, he is the one who says that, okay, whatever happens, it is his personal motto where he says that I'll work harder. So he just kind of pushes also everyone to work hard. Also, the food fell short in the winter season, and so they were now they did not want the outside people to have the feeling that they were short on food, short on supplies. So what happened is that they called in Mr. Wimper to kind of look around the store shed and to see that they have enough food so that he also, when he goes to the outside world, when he interacts with the outside world, he tells them, okay, the animals are ruling themselves and they have enough food and they're not starving, not dying of hunger, they're very efficient in their ruling and all of that. And also, I am not exactly sure, I'm forgetting actually what event happened, but some animals, I believe, also then here revolted against Napoleon, and many animals were asked or basically forced to confess that they have done kind of, what do you call it? That they have not been loyal to their leader and that they have betrayed their leader, and then they were killed, I believe, in this chapter. I am forgetting the event that has happened.
Yes, yes.
That happened in this chapter. And
I guess this is
they also try to force Boxer, the horse, into confessing that he has betrayed the leader. But because all the dogs of Napoleon are not very, like, they do not have that much force in front of Napoleon, that so they basically just leave leave Boxer alone, and they're not able to force Boxer to confessing that they have been that he has been disloyal and thing like that.
right. Yeah, so I guess this is the event that you are pointing out that they'll just read it together. Once again, it was being put out that all the animals were dying of famine and disease, and that they were continually fighting among themselves and had resorted to cannibalism and infanticide. Napoleon was well aware of the bad result that might follow if the real facts of the food situation were known, and he decided to make use of Mr. Wimper to spread a contrary impression. Oh, yeah. So now that you said that they didn't prepare for the winter very well, right?
Yeah.
And they ran short of food, and obviously now Napoleon was the leader, so he wanted to give out a message assuring all the other animals that things were going good. So this is when he calls him Mr. Wimper, because he was the only human that the animals were dealing with, because he helped him in trade. And this is what happens. Napoleon is well aware of, okay, and Mr. Wimper to spread the contrary impression, right? Hitherto, the animals had little or no contact with Mr. Wimper on his weekly visits. Now, however, a few selected animals, mostly sheep, were instructed to remark casually in his hearing that the rations had been increased. In addition, Napoleon also ordered empty bins in the store shed to be filled nearly to the brim with sand, which was then covered up with what remained of grains and meal. On some suitable pretext, Mr. Wimper was led through the store shed and allowed to catch a glimpses of the bins again. So here he's trying to lie to Mr. Wimper, okay, and by again by fulfilling the bins with half with grains with whatever he had, and the leftovers with the sand. So it might look like there is a lot of food. So Mr. Wimper could go out and just give away the message that the shortage of food is no more a problem, but the farm is filled. This kind of a raw impression is trying to give, and also trying to make the animals again look more efficient, that although the winter has come now, the humans expected that we would fail here and during the winter, but that is not the case. But that is what he was trying to do, but originally actually they were failing.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Is boxer is the horse that a lot of us would relate to. uh, Reason being that while reading the book, the metaphor for boxer was a middle class family, a classic example, where they believe that hard work is the only way to get what they want, and hard work is the way to achieve everything. And it's sad as well, because that is not the truth, and they just blindly keep believing on the authority that they are functioning under. And when they don't get the intended results that they want to have from their life, they just become bitter because they aren't able to achieve it. And it's very sad, I mean, to see boxer that despite so many problems, despite being, despite Napoleon putting the blame on him, he still continues to believe in a leader that does not wish well for him. And and boxer just continues to work harder and harder, believing that one day might come when his efforts would be recognized and he would be rewarded for it. But we'll get to know in the later stages of the chapter that what actually happens with boxer. What do you think of boxer as a character?
Yeah, I think his character has been made in a way where, there are people who, like, he know the only thing that he knows is hard work, and that is what he's good at, and that is what he does throughout his life. And he also kind of, but it has also been shown in a context of like very following somebody with a blind eye, like whatever the leader is saying, yes, that is correct, that you cannot go against it, or you do not want to go against it. Like in the book also, he had two these things, slogans or maxims for himself, where he said that I'll work harder and Napoleon is always right, which cannot be always true. The leader cannot be always right, but yeah. So I think that is what he knows. Napoleon, what he knows is hard work, and I think also for the animals, for the other animals, he works hard to kind of help them build the windmill, and he knows that okay, if I help them, the other people will also, the other animals will also benefit from that. So yeah, I think he's a hard worker, and
That's
that is how.
something.
But it's also been shown in a way where
Naive.
he blindly trusts the leader.
He says his the problem with the character. I mean, it's not a problem. I would say Boxer has been shown to be naive to the extent that he does not acquaint himself with the reality, right? And the naivety is what is the cause of his situation in the chapters as we move ahead. And I mean, every time we read about Boxer right from the beginning, we just, as a reader, I was like, "Arey, why? I mean, why do you trust the authorities so much? थोड़ा तो अपने लिए सोच, थोड़ा अपने दिमाग से तो सोच के क्या चल रहा है." But then the character was meant to, show that there are people also in today's time that have a blind trust on the government and their own slogans, but when things don't come to materialize as the people expect it to. Again, here I see the line, I could show you this in his own handwriting if you are able to read. Again, in the initial stage chapters, we read that when education was being promoted, Napoleon was the one to decide that achha, not all the animals have a good, learning ability. So not all the animals will read. And now he's using his own, he's using this again on his own, saying that he's using it against the animals only, that I can show you in writing, but you don't know how to read, so it's not my fault. Again, he's shifting the blame on the animals. Now, when Squealer described the scene so graphically, it seemed to animals that they did remember it. Again, we discussed that Squealer was the propaganda expert for Napoleon. And whatever Squealer was the guy that manipulates the reality to fit the the propaganda of Napoleon. And without the propaganda, Napoleon wasn't going to rise to power, and he was there consciously. He was appointed consciously. I mean, Squealer was appointed consciously. This is an alarming situation, not only for the readers, but among the animals as well, that the very reason that they wanted to get rid of Jones, because they didn't want to, they didn't want to get exploited. And now that they are seeing that the fights are happening amongst themselves, is really upsetting them. And it's kind of, it is at this point that they should have realized what is happening. Okay, why is Wheeler, coming and being the propaganda expert for Napoleon, and what is Napoleon up to? But I guess this does not materialize even as we go ahead with the story. This was the statement that is in here on the 7th chapter, which is kind of the middle of the book, or maybe like the 60-65% of the book, where we realized that animals should have seen through the BS that was happening.
Yeah. Also, the moment I think it's written here, I think the why the Napoleon ordered for the animals to like ordered, or maybe ordered the dogs to force the animals to confess that they have been causing treachery, as written in the book, is because they were helping, or they were deemed to help Snowball. Because in the book, I think the Snowball started coming back to the farm in the night, and he started talking to the animals again. And then again, I think, I'm assuming, revolting against Napoleon, and to help him in his own agenda. I think so. Any animal that has helped Snowball was then then killed later on by
Get
Napoleon,
them killed.
which is also against their own commandments, where they said that no animal will kill another animal, which was
Correct.
again then later changed in the next chapter to no animal will kill another animal without cause.
Yeah.
So
So this was again him giving a message that if you rebel against me, okay, then your consequences will be your life. And there are only two options that animals had henceforth. Either you are with me, this is what Napoleon had to say, either you're with me or either you're against me. And if you're against me, you will be killed. So people obviously would be with him or pretend to be with him.
yeah,
It would have been to say that this was not what they had aimed at when they had set themselves years ago to work for the overthrow of the human race, as we said. If she herself had had any picture of the future, it had been a society of animals set free from hunger and web, all equal, each working accordingly to his capacity. So, yeah, this is what they wanted, but this is what they are going through right now. Yeah, can you move ahead? This is the chapter where you can see that the realization has led them to take some action, where they realize that we had decided that no animals will kill each other, and we are going to stay with a feeling of brotherhood. And there is a talk, there is like a word or gossip going around amongst the animals, that that they are discussing that what this is happening is not right. And again, I guess Spieler is the one who is coming in to just soothe or smooth things out.
yeah. So basically, as I said, like the animals who had committed treachery, or who were forced to kind of confess that they had committed treachery, were now being executed. And so they were suddenly reminded of the
Commandments.
of the
Commandments.
commandment that they had, that no animal will kill another animal. But now it has been changed to without, like they have added without cause to it, to then again suit their own agenda and own narrative. And so the animals, like, they are killed. And now this chapter basically diverts from like, this chapter basically states that that Napoleon is basically now diverting from serving the common agenda to serving his own agenda, which was to create his own leadership, where they just changed the song that they had, which was the Beast of England, to now a full another song, which was specially for Comrade Napoleon, as they call him in the chapter.
Right.
And so here also then there is another war, which is the war of the windmill, wherein the windmill is completed, and the other people from outside, like the people from the neighboring farms, they come in, and they kind of, now they come prepared with guns and arms and ammunitions to kind of kill the animals in the farm and take control of the farm. But this time they don't take the help of Mr. Jones, which is very weird to me, because it was his own farm. So yeah, so they just come in with this, but the animals are able to drive them away, but some of them are also injured, especially Boxer, which is very important, because later on then other things happen which we can discuss in the next chapter. But yeah, here basically this chapter is basically a diversion from the common agenda to Napoleon's own agenda. And then again, yeah, another iconic battle in this book.
Right.
It's the Battle of the Windmill.
Yeah, that the transition was something that was that was foreseen while reading the book, that Napoleon was going to have promote his own agenda. And we'll have a look at, I mean, obviously, as we move ahead, we'll have a look at the songs that now, just like you pointed out, the thing has shifted from doing good for the animals and birds to singing only good songs for Napoleon. And it was like more, again, a classic dictator rule where, the dictators want that their followers admire them like a god to them, like totally like a god, like like it's like they don't have any flaws, they are the ones doing always the right thing, whatever they do is the right thing. And it's yeah, now here we see there were times when it seemed to the animals that they worked longer hours and had and fed no better than they had done in Jones's day. So yeah, that is, this is kind of an uprising for the animals as well. I guess eighth
Yeah.
chapter is the most disruptive chapter in the whole book, where we see two forces or three forces rising together or many events together. There, can you move ahead? I mean, this was a recent incident as well when I just read. I mean, I know I saw it in a meme that Kim Jong Il, that is Kim Jong Un's father, and so he had his death anniversary a while back, and Kim Jong Un had ordered all the North Koreans to take like to cry the whole day, okay, for the for the for on his death anniversary. And it was like forced that if you don't cry, you will consider to be anti, North Korean, and the punishment will be similar, that is death. It had some usual It had become usual to give Napoleon the credit for every successful achievements and every stroke of good fortune. Again, making him giving him the status of a god, that whatever good is happening is because of him. Yeah, and here we see the how the song had changed from the animals. What was the first song that they sang? Beast of Burden. Beast of England, to hear the new song, Friend of Fatherless, Fountain of Happiness, Lord of the Swill Buckle. Oh, how my soul is on fire when I gaze at thy calm and commanding eye, like the sun in the sky, Comrade Napoleon. So obviously, this is, I guess, a mix of a little bit of traditional English, because you see the word die in it, so we won't read it completely. But all in all, I can see that it's like whatever problem you have, the solution rests with Comrade Napoleon.
Yeah. And basically just pleasing him now, because anybody who pleases now the leader will be in his good books and will be taken care for by the leader. And now any other who just wants to rebel can die.
Can die.
which later happens in the chapter. So yeah.
Yeah, we are moving to that.
So this basically, there is one very important event in this chapter. Basically, in the Battle of Windmill, as we said, that other people came in to regain the control of the farm, and actually Mr. Jones had also kind of crept in the farm and blowed up the windmill that the animals had made. And so in that whole Battle of Windmill, Boxer was injured. And so Napoleon kind of assured everyone that okay, Boxer will be taken care of, and we will just get him treated. But in what happens is that they send Boxer to the butcher house to get killed, because they don't want him to get treated. I assume because he had not confessed of treachery, because his dogs couldn't force him to confess of treachery. And so it was easier, I think, in this situation for Napoleon to kind of just get rid of him. And so he sends him to the butcher house, and all the animals also kind of then start to realize that okay, this is not a vehicle where you go treat animals, this is a vehicle where you take animals to the butcher house. And so yeah, that is one very important, and I think that is the most important event of this chapter.
Correct. Yeah, that is where yeah, this is what happens in as far as I recall. So definitely a boxer was injured and he needed the necessary treatment to get well. And where there was a van that had come in the farm to pick him
Yeah.
up. And when so boxer did not notice, but the animals were standing at the other side of the truck, so they did notice that there it was written that this belongs to the slaughterhouse for the horses. And we'll just have a look ahead, but for now we'll just have a look at it. In any case, he had no difficulty in proving to other animals that they were not in reality short of food, whatever the appearances might be. Again, he's trying to create a facade where he's forcing, actually he's not even trying now, he's literally forcing the other animals to believe that there is enough food, and what you are thinking, whatever the rumors are totally false.
Yeah.
The animals believed every word of it. Truth to tell, Jones and all he stood for had almost faded out of their memories. They knew that life nowadays was harsh and bare, and they were often hungry and often cold. It was definitely going to happen because they didn't pay enough attention to the chronology of events. Can you move
Hmm.
ahead there? Yeah, now we are on the last chapter of this book. And yeah, so what does the chapter say, Arushi?
Yeah. So in this chapter, basically, what now this is the very like the conclusion. So what happens is nothing much happens except for the fact that now that there is new generation on the farm, time has passed. The new generation on the farm who do not know anything about the rebellion that first occurred, but they are only aware of the idea of animalism because that is what they're taught. But they do not know the idea of why the rebellion started and what happened since that rebellion to now lead to a point where they are. And there is one very like there is this slogan or the maxim that they form in this chapter which says that all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others, which is basically kind of sums up the chapter by saying that at the end of the day it is going to happen what like you are going to turn into the thing that you basically rebelled against.
Hmm. Right, right. Yeah, we can see over here as well. Many animals had been born to whom the rebellion was only a dim tradition passed on by the word of mouth, and others had been bought who had never heard of mention of such a thing before their arrival. Oh, yeah, again, I guess this points out the importance of knowing the history as well, because history has to be on the paper and it has to tell the truth. It has to point out the facts and the exact accurate, and it has to be accurate.
Hmm.
ये जो word of mouth वाला जो होता है, especially when it comes to passing on traditions, it deteriorates over over a period of time, and with the number of people it is spread to. वो classic example था अपना, पता है, when we used to play Chinese whispers. मतलब फर्स्ट
Mm-hmm.
इंसान ने
Right,
कुछ और
right.
बोला होता, वो 10वें
Hmm.
इंसान तक को ऐसा एक वर्ड तक बन गया होता.
Hmm.
So this again tells us the importance of history as well, कि यार history जानना कितना important हो जाता है. And I guess
Hmm.
this chapter closes with one important scene that towards the end, and the scene is where all the animals are outside the farm, are outside the farmhouse where Napoleon was living, and they could see Napoleon sitting at the table with humans and
Understand.
drinking. And that is where the that scene sums up the entire book in that one
Yeah.
scene, that कि ये क्या चल रहा था, क्या हुआ,
Hmm.
कैसे बताया गया, एंड अल्टीमेटली वो क्यों हुआ था, बिकॉज उसके पीछे इंटेंशन ही कोई और था.
Yeah.
Okay, so this marks the end of this book. As we just went through all the 10 chapters, we discussed everything.
Yeah.
So Arushi, now I have a few questions related to the book as well.
Uh-huh.
Number one is that, do humans, okay, let's just come to the reality now, because ये तो metaphorical terms में the animals were shown to be humans, but do humans really need an authority to govern them, or humans are capable of self-governing?
Hmm. I believe that there has to be some sort of authority because because if you don't have any authority, I think how are you going to self-govern, in the sense that who are you going to listen to? Because everybody is going to have dissenting opinions, everybody is going to have conflicting opinions. And that is like, even like politically, if you see, or even if you see religiously, I think there is something that governs the very nature of humans. Like if you see religion wise, the religion governs the, the how the person, or if anybody born in that religion, has to kind of govern himself to lead a better life. In case of politics, you see how to govern yourselves in order to not be a criminal.
Totally.
So yeah,
Right.
so I think there has to be some sort of governance. There has to be, because otherwise self-governance with this big of a population is very difficult.
Right, right. Also, the problem with, I mean, I also have a like a balanced opinion about this, that everyone needs an authority to at least teach the basics, where to differentiate between the good and evil, or to differentiate
Yeah.
between what is good for the society and bad for the society, right? Like I'll give you a very simple example. Let's take us humans, okay? All of us wear clothes, okay? But अगर ऐसा अथॉरिटी ने सिखाया नहीं होता कि कपड़े पहनने इम्पोर्टेंट है और क्यों है, तो मे बी देर जो सेल्फ गवर्निंग वाले द प्रमोटर्स ऑफ सेल्फ गवर्निंग वाले होते, दे वुड बी रोमिंग अराउंड नेकेड इन द सोसाइटी, which would create really a obscene scene for people who are wearing clothes. So such basic things have to come from the authority, and I think the authority is something that keeps the people united as well, right? Because अगर
Or
self governing पे
divided in some
हाँ?
cases, but yeah.
Yeah. So and if you look at self governing as well, so self governing में everyone would be governing themselves as per their own opinion. So that would really like break the society into fragments, because अगर मेरा और तेरा belief भी same नहीं है, even एक चीज भी common नहीं है, तो हम कैसे associate हो सकते हैं? Get
Also,
what
I
I'm
think
saying?
both of the things are also interdependent, because to follow the main authority, you also have to kind of self-regulate yourself to follow the teachings or the rulings of whatever has been told to you. So I think both of them are also independent or interdependent.
Interdependent, right? Rightly pointed out. Yeah. Also, here we see that how history is important as well, as I spoke before. That history is something that, as a subject, a lot of students didn't like in school, okay, because it was seen to be very boring and monotonous. And but history is, I guess, more important to learn how the way it is taught, right? So to learn these things, I mean, I personally did not like history, but when I read this book, when I read this book for the first time, that interest, just I would say increased कि अच्छा मुझे और जाननी है हिस्ट्री में कि क्या हुई थी, क्यों हुई थी, and how these things can be avoided, okay. And I guess history, the basic funda of history is simple के you need to know what mistakes people made in the past so that you don't make the same mistakes. Because अगर वही mistakes करे जा रहे हैं, तो how are we improving as a generation?
Yeah. Also, it teaches like any idea, what is the, the force behind that idea, what was the basic intention, the primary intention behind the idea. Like in this book, we say that the primary intention was to just remove humans and govern themselves, but later on, though, things changed. So anybody who was born new in the farm, he wouldn't know what was the basic intention. They are only taught animalism, that was that was then changed to suit their own motives later on. So yeah, I think history is also important to kind of really have a bigger picture.
Bigger picture of the scene, right? With that, Aarushi, I guess we have done justice to this episode, to the book, and to this talk completely. Spending so many hours. I mean, I guess if I'm not wrong, we have spent nearly 2 hours discussing this book. And it was a pleasure having you. And thank you for your contribution to the episode.
Thank you for not getting pissed off at me, because I have asked to reschedule so many times. I was like, now he's going to think that I'm going to cancel, but finally this is done, and I hope
this is happening. Yeah.
But I think
I'm
we should
glad
end with But I think you should end with telling people like, what is your favorite book? Abhi tak jo bhi padhi hai.
My favorite book. So, since the lockdown started, I had read. I mean, I've read many books, but the books that I personally liked, and I think I'll keep reading it over the years, is 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson. And
Okay.
this is another book, Animal Farm, that I'll continue to read.
Definitely.
And I think as many times as I'll read, I'll surely remember you as a person. And I'm
हाँ,
glad we could do this.
yeah, yeah. Same.
अभी मैं recording stop करता हूँ.
Okay.